Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We are back talking some more Coach Prime and where Colorado is going on the recruiting trail. Again, in my opinion, this is the coolest story in college football right now is what is Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, going to do at Colorado? How's it going to turn out? And how he's going to build this program back from a team that was 1-11 last year with brutal talent on that roster, and how he's going to flip this program around. Again, before we get into it, though, I just want to say thank you guys for the support. I really enjoyed chopping it up about Colorado football. It's a very fascinating story. What talent they are going to pull to Boulder is very fun to talk about. And the support you guys have shown truly means a lot. We really do appreciate it. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We really do appreciate all the support you guys have shown. What I want to start off with is, and this isn't necessarily commitment news, but I do think it's big time news when you're talking about national recruiting. In the 2024 class, Ellis Robinson, a top 10 dude nationally from Bradenton, Florida, he's from New Haven but plays at IMG Academy, released his top 5. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Miami, and then Colorado. In Colorado, that's not the first time this week that's happened. Ellis Robinson, if you were a top cornerback, I think it makes so much sense to go on and go play for Coach Prime. Obviously, Travis Hunter did it. You're seeing rumors of Cormani McLean potentially going to Colorado. This makes a lot of sense, but I think is even a bigger deal is you go look at TJ Caspers, a 5-star edge rusher who just released his top 5. I believe it was on Thursday. We're going to pull up his recruiting profile right here. He also included Colorado in his top 5. So it's Alabama, Georgia, Miami, and Colorado. And what I think is so important is even if you're not necessarily landing these kind of guys, they're considering your school. They're taking official visits, maybe bringing their teammates. When you're a top 5 dude or a top 5-star prospect in high school and you see guys like TJ Caspers, Ellis Robinson taking official visits to Colorado, you're probably going to take an official visit too and see what it's all about. And again, even if TJ Caspers doesn't go to Colorado, even if Ellis Robinson doesn't go to Colorado, Colorado is in the national media, in the national spotlight in terms of recruiting. It's a destination place to go. I think you're going to see a lot of top 2024, 2025 kids decide to take their official visits there. Now, we talked about how this Colorado team is going to turn around so fast. It's not necessarily going to be through the high school recruiting this year, because when you get down to it, you're not going to want to trust too many kids who are 18 years old to come around and be impact players year one. That's very rare in college football. Plus, Coach Prime, who decided to coach in the bowl game for Jackson State, didn't really have that much time to pull together a super juggernaut of a 2023 class. And when I say that, they are much better in Coach Prime's 2 weeks of doing that and bringing together a class. I mean, Colorado was averaged about 55th nationally in national recruiting. Coach Prime in 3 weeks flipped Dylan Edwards, got Amarian Miller from Nebraska and LSU, and put together a top 25 class. That is the first time Colorado's been in the top 25 class. And I went back in like the last 5 years. I don't even think they were close to a top 25 class. And that's a big deal. And I expect 2024 and 2025. And you go check out 2025, how that's already started. And this is more of a joke because I know it's early. The number 1 class in the country, because they already have a 5-star top 15 dude nationally committed there. This is a program that I think is going in the right, it's clearly going in the right direction. I think it's really hard to argue that Coach Prime was not the right hire for Colorado when you're bringing in this much talent like he has already. It's clearly seeming to work out, and they're going to be more competitive than they have been in the last 5 years in 2023. Now, how do you get Colorado to be competitive in 2023 to Coach Prime standard? Because again, Coach Prime isn't going to accept a 4-8 season. That's not what he came to Colorado to do. He doesn't care that it's year one. How do you get this 2023 team that went 1-11 last year to win 6 ball games, to make a bowl game, to maybe even win 8 games? You have to go to the transfer portal. And what they've done already, and we said when this process started and Coach Prime took that job, I was going to say 30 to 40 guys I think will be brought in through the transfer portal. Now, I think there's a little bit of a logjam because you need to get the current Colorado scholarship guys probably out. You're going to need 10 or maybe 15 guys to transfer out of Colorado. They've already had a few guys transfer out. I think you're going to wait for a couple more guys and some more scholarships to free up, but you already take a look at what they've done in the transfer portal. Leonard Payne, I know, was very, very kind of sought after at the Power 5 level, a 6'3", 310-pound guy on the defensive line. But What I think is most exciting is you bring in the splash players. Shedeur Sanders, obviously being kind of headlining that group, and him and Travis Hunter. But you also get a guy like Jimmy Horn Jr. For many Colorado fans or National Football fans, you might not know much about him. Electric kid from USF. If you give him the ball, he's one of the fastest players in the college football, and he's one of the quickest players in college football. He's a guy that when you look at teams that have had really good turnarounds, like Kansas, going from bottom of the Big 12 to 6-7, making a bowl game, how they did that was they got some impact players on the offensive side of the ball, guys like Jalen Daniels, guys like Devin Neal, who can make splash plays and keep games close with their athletic ability and their playmaking. Jimmy Horn Jr., I think, is that guy. Now, what kind of bit Kansas in the butt and why I think they're not fully competitive yet is they don't necessarily have that depth on the defensive line. And I think talking with a lot of Colorado fans and a lot of you guys in the comment section in general is that's where they really need to go. And they've tried doing it. Like Marshawn Kneeling coming over from Western Michigan, double-digit sacks and TFLs in his career. We obviously already talked about Leonard Payne. They get Jeremiah Brown at that linebacker spot. But what you're probably going to see is some more offensive linemen and defensive linemen be added in. They've grabbed 3 already. When you look at Savion Washington from Kent State, a lot of people liked his game and wanted him. Tyler Brown coming over from Jackson State on the interior. And then Landon Beebe, another kid from Missouri State who a lot of Power 5 teams wanted. They're addressing that depth on the offensive line and the defensive line, bringing in a Chance Coates guy from Dartmouth who kind of is a war tank. If you want to go, he's not 6'4", 220 anymore. They might have him listed at that right now. If you go take a look at what he looks like, he is not 220 pounds anymore. You're looking at Coach Prime looking at this roster and saying, we need some more depth on the front as well. It's awesome to go get some explosive playmakers, and you have that with guys like Jimmy Horn Jr., Shedeur Sanders, but you also need to get some guys on the offense and defensive line, and not necessarily starters, but depth. A lot of college football fans know defensive linemen, especially, you're rotating 8 to 10 guys in a game, and that's where Kansas was hurt so bad is some of those 8 to 10 guys who were coming in later, they just weren't Power 5 football players, and that's when they really got burned. Colorado, I think, is going to start addressing that as well, and I think what's interesting is to kind of look towards the transfer portal, and years ago, this was really, really hard to do. Like tackles and good tackles were kind of at a premium in the transfer portal. Right now, you take a look at some of the guys in the transfer portal, there's some really good ball players. I know Gunnar Britton was an all-conference dude. You have a kid from Alabama. There's some really, really good football players who still aren't committed yet. And you obviously have Savion Washington, who's already at Oregon State. There's some other guys, Keontae Goodwin being a 2021 kid who was a true freshman this year, former top 50 player nationally. The reason I know so much about him is I want him at Michigan Wolverines to get him. He's from Michigan. He ends up going to Kentucky. Now he's in the portal. My point is, in years past, there weren't that many good offensive linemen in the transfer portal. You couldn't really get many starting caliber Power 5 dudes through the portal. This year, that's different. It is, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's not as much of a premium to go and address the trenches on the offense and defensive line. And a couple other targets that this is kind of just more fun to talk about is you kind of look at what are some other fun names that Coach Prime could kind of target in the transfer portal. Trey Sanders, a former top 5 dude nationally, according to 24/7 Sports, who was at Alabama. He struggled with injuries for most of his career. He's voiced on Twitter that he wants to go play for Coach Prime, and he's a dude that if you get him right, like you don't become a top 5 dude nationally if you're not really athletically gifted. And he is athletically gifted. Jahmyr Gibbs transfers into Georgia Tech, kind of gets phased out. He's dealt with injuries. He would be an impact player if Colorado added him and also got him healthy and got him ready to go. Another guy who's, in my opinion, one of the more interesting guys in the portal, Eric Gilbert. Again, probably many of you guys know his name. Highest tight end prospect ever, according to 24/7 Sports. Went to LSU. He had a really good true freshman year. Then he transfers to Georgia. He ends up sitting out a year, plays sparingly at Georgia this year because it's such a deep tight end room. He's a guy that another example of if you get him right and get him ready to play, he could be a massive, massive addition to this Colorado team. And I don't have any reason to have Eric Gilbert deciding to go to Colorado besides the fact that he's probably looking for a spot where he can play right away. And Colorado is a spot where if he goes, he's probably going to find the field and probably going to get a lot of playing time. And just as a college football fan, I want to see him find some playing time because he is truly, truly a freak athlete. If you go watch his high school film and at all those camps, like, he's different. He moves different. His size is different. If he can get some experience playing college football again, and he's obviously battled some off the field stuff, I think most people in the country are rooting for him and hoping to see him play because he's an absolute dog at that tight end spot. And again, you have 16 transfers right now. I think maybe add 3 or 4 more during this winter period. You get them in January. You're also going to see a ton of guys enter the transfer portal after spring ball. And I think Coach Prime, again, will pounce on those guys, getting them ready for the summer. And we're going to talk more about him as Coach Prime continues to add guys to the 2024 class, get guys through the transfer portal. But there's going to be a lot of news, and it might slow down for the next couple of weeks as early signing day has concluded and 2024 class isn't really getting going yet. That being said, after spring ball, we're going to come back to this transfer portal, and I'm very, very confident you're going to see Deion Sanders grab another 15 to 20 players in the transfer portal as he really tries to overhaul this roster. Because, again, Colorado wasn't bad because their coaching was bad schematically. It was bad because they've recruited at a horrible level for years, and they don't have the talent to compete with guys like Oregon and USC. Coach Prime is going to change that. And if he wants to win this year immediately, it's going to have to be through the transfer portal, and it's going to get really exciting for Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and the Colorado Buffaloes as this transfer portal winds down and opens up again after spring football. Again, wanted to keep this one short, but guys like Ellis Robinson, guys like TJ Kaspers, considering Colorado in their top 5, these are top 25 nationally ranked players considering to take their talents out to Colorado and go play for Coach Prime. That is massive news. I'm very excited to keep monitoring the situation. Again, if you enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel. More importantly, let's chop it up in the comment section about some Colorado football, the most exciting story in sports right now. We appreciate you guys checking us out. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.